What's going on, y'all? It's the Caveman back at it again with another video, and holy shit, this offseason, it's about to get crazy. It's about to get super wild. You better strap your seatbelts in because it's going to get certified stupid out in this offseason streets. It's going to get wild. It's going to get crazy, so you better be ready for it because that Matthew Stafford and Jared Goff trade was just kick-starting it all. So a couple weeks ago, before that Matthew Stafford and Jared Goff trade even happened, my girlfriend and my dad, who are both very avid football fans, were telling me before that trade even happened that they do not think that Deshaun Watson will end up getting out of Houston. And I just could not fathom that thought. I'm like, there's no way Deshaun Watson doesn't find his way out of Houston. He's going to find his way. There's no way he doesn't. He just kept telling me, even before that trade, and then of course after that trade, they're like, he's not going to get out. He's not going to get out. And even after that trade, I was not buying what they were selling. I'm like, Deshaun Watson is going to find his way out. And then the Carson Wentz rumors started to heat up. And I didn't even think that dude was going to get traded. And now all of a sudden he's being valued pretty high. And I'm like, holy shit, Deshaun Watson's actually not going to get out. And that is what led me to believe what you're reading in this video title. I do not think Deshaun Watson is going to get out of Houston. Let me take you through my step-by-step thought process from the very beginning of how I got to the point that I'm at. And let's just start at the beginning with the Deshaun Watson trade rumors first coming out. And there was a pretty long list of teams that could potentially use a guy like Deshaun Watson. Nobody really knew what the value was going to be. Give or take like 10 or so teams on this list. And I'm going to throw that list up on the screen here. And there were a decent amount of teams in this running for Deshaun Watson. It was kind of just whoever needed a quarterback was in the running for Deshaun Watson. That was just kind of how it was. Then the Jared Goff and Matthew Stafford trade happens between the Lions and the Rams. And you're like, okay, so if Matthew Stafford is going for that much, he's being valued that highly, what is Deshaun Watson going to be valued at? And nobody really knew. Nobody really knew other than like some speculation. And PFF, Pro Football Focus, probably one of the most hated companies in the entire football world. But, you have to respect their opinion here and there. And between the Houston Texans and the Washington football team. And once I saw this value, I'm like, there's no way in hell you do this trade. The trade was Deshaun Watson going to the Washington football team in return for Chase Young and 3 first-round picks. So if by some random, ungodly, unruly chance that you're a football fan and you do not know who Chase Young is, well, let me enlighten you. Chase Young was a top 5 DM this season. He is a generational talent. He was leading the brigade that was the Washington football team defensive line, and he was the best one on it. Granted, that defensive line is monstrous across the board, but he was the best one on it. He was leading the brigade, and he was doing all of this in his rookie season. Chase Young is the cornerstone, the foundation for the Washington football team. So they're giving up their foundation, their generational talent, their top 5, even top 3 potentially D end for Deshaun Watson and 3 first-round picks, mind you. Why and how would you do that? I wouldn't. If I'm the Washington football team, I see this trade from PFF, I'm like, yeah, fuck no. How would bloody hell could you give up all of that for one guy? I don't care how good Deshaun Watson is. Chase Young is like the equivalent to Deshaun Watson, at his position. Like, you cannot do that. The defense of the Washington football team is what made them, as good as they were. To be giving up the cornerstone of that defense and that team for a guy, you're basically just canceling out any progress you made. Like, I'm keeping my 3 first-round picks, building around a different guy, and keeping Chase Young instead of giving up all of that for one guy. Deshaun Watson does not get the Washington football team any closer to their goal at the end of the day. He just doesn't. Especially when you're giving up all that equity, he does not get you any closer to where you're trying to end up, and that's the Super Bowl. I'm sorry, he just doesn't. And if that's what Deshaun Watson is going to be valued at, I'm sorry, but that's a big old hell no. Going back to my original list of teams that I thought that Deshaun Watson could end up at, that really dropped out probably about half of them. The teams that I dropped out of this list just could not simply afford to trade all that equity for Deshaun Watson, depending on whether or not they're rebuilding completely or they're just trying to get to the Super Bowl. They're trying to get a step closer to the Super Bowl. These teams that I dropped out of this list could not afford that trade and get closer to their goal at the same time. And then yesterday happens. The Carson Wentz rumors start to really erupt, and I didn't even think this dude was going to get traded. I did not think they were going to trade him. Just the situation was too sticky. Nobody knew what was going on. His contract is too much. He was not playing well. I did not think there was a chance in hell any team was going to trade for him or that the Eagles were even going to, be dealing him. But then I see a report that says that Carson Wentz is being valued at 2 first-round picks, just like Matthew Stafford was, and the Bears are listening. What? I thought maybe the Matthew Stafford value was just like, he's so good. He's been trapped in Detroit. He's being kind of a little overvalued because, he's been trapped in Detroit for so long and he's shown so many good flashes of being such a great quarterback that maybe that's why he got valued at 2 first-round picks. But then you see Carson Wentz, who has been trending downward for a while now. He has not shown a good flash of football in ages, being valued at 2 first-round picks, just like Matthew Stafford was. Holy shit! So these two guys who are not even close to the realm of Deshaun Watson are being valued at 2 first-round picks. There is no doubt in my mind, that Deshaun Watson will be at minimum 4 first-round picks. He will not be any less. If you're the Houston Texans and you accept less for Deshaun Watson, you are digging yourself in a bigger hole than you started with. They cannot afford to give all that up. And after those rumors came out, and it seems like Carson Wentz, hopefully he doesn't get traded by the time I release this video, but if Carson Wentz is being valued this high, there are practically no teams that are going to give up that amount of equity for one singular player. You simply cannot. You put yourself back so far by doing this trade if you're any team in the NFL. Going back to the list of teams that I had that could potentially trade for Deshaun Watson, that only left 2. Only 2 were left standing. That was the 49ers and the Saints. Those were the only 2 teams, in my opinion, that I felt like could afford doing such a trade and be a step closer to their Super Bowl goals. There's no other team on this list that I think could possibly afford this and get closer to the goal they're trying to get to. The PFF trade that the 49ers suggested was Nick Bosa and 2 first-round picks for Deshaun Watson. I guess. You know, the offense of the 49ers was really what was holding them back. You know, Jimmy Garoppolo just sucks ass. I'm sorry. He's just not a quarterback that can get the job done. We saw that in the Super Bowl. You know, he had a good run that year, but he really didn't do very much. He hit the passes he had to, but he's not that elite quarterback you really could use to win a Super Bowl. And Nick Bosa, as much as a difference maker he is, the rest of that defense is pretty solid as well. Granted, they lost Robert Saleh and they're losing Richard Sherman, so the more I think about it, I don't even think they could afford this trade anyway. But regardless of that, the 49ers and the Saints are the 2 teams that I think could potentially afford to make this trade and still get a little closer to winning the Super Bowl. But even then, the Saints would probably, I don't know what the Saints would have to give up. I don't know what kind of ungodly amount, what kind of care package they would have to send to Houston to afford Deshaun Watson. I still don't think they'd be closer to their goal because Jameis Winston, I believe, can be a good quarterback. I do. I don't think I'm alone in that standpoint either. I really think Jameis Winston could get the job done. So for them to go through with that would be stupid as well because they have another guy that could step up to the plate. So why would they go through with that? So I don't know. And that would leave the 49ers, and I just feel like there's no way anybody could give up that amount for Deshaun Watson. Just how much Carson Wentz and Matthew Stafford were being valued at, there's no way in hell it's going to be 4 first-round picks. It has to be. There's no doubt in my mind that it has to be 4 first-round picks. Deshaun Watson's trade value is so high up, it's literally through my roof and up in space somewhere. I can't see it. I don't think a telescope would help me find it. It's really high up there, and it's pretty freaking ridiculous how much this guy is going to cost. I feel like at this point in time, there's really no way any team in the NFL could afford giving up so much for Deshaun Watson. They just couldn't. I feel like, speaking hypothetically, a team would have to meet 2 certain requirements. And I'm not saying this relates to any team in the NFL. I'm just going to speak hypothetically for a second here. There are 2 requirements that a team would have to meet in order for a trade like this to make sense for any team in the NFL. So requirement number 1 would have to be that they're in win now mode. They do not care about the future. Forget the future. They don't care about it. They're in win now mode. They want all the marbles in 2021. They want the Super Bowl trophy right now. Requirement number 2 would be that they're so well-rounded in every other area that the quarterback is literally the key to the door that is the Super Bowl. They're knocking on the door, and quarterback is the last piece, the last key they need to open that door and get to the Super Bowl. And what I mean by that is they have a great secondary, they have a great front 7, they have a great receiving core, they have a great running game, they have a great offensive line. They just need the quarterback position to take that next step to being the Super Bowl champions that they're shooting to be. Basically, what I'm trying to say is requirement number 1, you need to be in win now mode. Forget the future. You're going for the marbles in 2021. And number 2, you need to be well-rounded in every other area, and the quarterback position absolutely needs to be the last thing you need to address in order to get to the Super Bowl. If you have other issues, you cannot give up all this equity. You need to have perfection all over the place. And what does this sound like? It sounds like the Rams, and I know they already went out and got Matthew Stafford, so they're out of the running anyway. But the Rams are the perfect team, the closest team, at least, to what I'm trying to say. The Rams have forgotten about their future. They do not care about their future. They're going for all the marbles in 2021. They also are very good in every other area of their team. Their running game is coming back to what it used to be. Their offensive line is fantastic. They have great receivers. They have a great defense. They have a fantastic front 7, one of the best D-lines in the NFL. They just needed a quarterback. Jared Goff was holding them back, and Matthew Stafford is supposedly going to be that guy. So the Rams were the closest thing I could think of. They're the only team that I could see making a trade like this. Other than that, there's no way. You cannot give up that much for Deshaun Watson. With all the teams left in the running, you do not get closer to your goal by giving up all of this equity for one singular player. You don't. I'm sorry. Deshaun Watson is not worth all of that equity. No singular player in the NFL is worth everything you'd have to give up to get Deshaun Watson. It just does not make sense. It's nonsensical, man. It's just crazy. So that is why I believe that Deshaun Watson will end up staying in Houston. Whether or not he's going to play, if he's going to hold out, who knows what's going to happen with that, but it's going to be a big clusterfuck, and I don't know what's going to happen, but I do think that Deshaun Watson is going to end up staying in Houston. He's going to get stuck there, and it's going to suck for him, and I'm going to feel bad for him, but just the way that the shit is panning out for Carson Wentz and Matthew Stafford and Jared Goff, the way these situations are going right now, they're not helping Deshaun Watson's case at all. So let me know what you think of the video. Let me know what you think of my opinion. Let me know what you think will happen of the Deshaun Watson situation or even the Carson Wentz situation. I want to know your thoughts down below in the comments. I always love to have conversation with you guys. I want to know down below. If you enjoyed the video, like, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. Hit the bell to be notified when I upload. If you want to go over to Twitter and follow me over there, I would appreciate that as well. If you enjoyed the video, I hope to see you in the next one. Peace.